New York City's game one down. The building almost fell down. The people showed up. And we took the Bucks apart. Me and my partner Sam is ready to talk hoop. Let's get right into it. Samuel, I'm going to tell you something from the heart, from the best part of myself. I am drawing this energy out to tell you this thing. Yesterday, or last night at Barclays Center, was one of the most special nights with my son I've ever had, because he's 8 years old. And every kid has a threshold. Some kids cross it at 5 or 6. Other kids are, really early. My son is into it, but there's so many other things like Fortnite that are easier to love, and even NBA 2K is better than watching a basketball game, right?
Sure.
But there was something in the air. There was something special about last night that this kid stood the entire game. Just stood. Like, we would have to pull him down. He'd sit for 3 seconds, stand right back up, and jump. Like, he doesn't know how to cheer. He's like most of the Brooklyn Nets fans. We don't necessarily have any customs yet. We don't have that many cheers besides Brooklyn. And but it was magnificent, man. I have to say, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think at every game, I've now been to, I think, 3 games in the last month or so. Went to the last regular season game, went to game 2 of the Celtics series, and then game 1 of the Bucks series, and it's getting better and better as it goes, which is all you can ask for. And there really is something special about the crowd at Barclays. I think it's not just the diversity in people, which I think is great and something you don't see in honestly almost any of the other New York other sports teams. Which for a city that prides itself on its diversity, a lot of times when you go to sporting events, you basically end up seeing one type of person that's there the entire time, and Barclays is just different from that. And
Yeah.
the vibe is. The vibe isn't, I think sometimes people use the vibe family friendly to describe a baseball game, let's say. And
Yep.
Barclays, it's not it's not just a family friendly thing. You really do feel like it's building towards something, especially as someone who grew up going to games at the Continental Airlines / Izod Center and then in Newark. There it felt like transplants. But this, I'm seeing all these little kids, which obviously include your son and stuff like that, all wearing the Hardens and Durants and the shoes and everything, and you feel like you're building something great, which is awesome.
No, it's a wonderful memory, and I, I'm having snuck in to MSG playoffs via friends and family, in the sense of them sending me videos of what they do over there. It's clearly an older crowd at MSG.
Yep.
My kids would not know how to dance to jump around. Not even my 18-year-old. She doesn't know that custom. When that comes on, it's meaningless to her. And even I have to say, Beyonce was looking very beautiful last night. Her and her husband Jay-Z, who is very symbolic of a lot of what's happening, and not just symbolic, but just hands-on, important to a lot that's happened in Barclays Center. If this was his vision, my hat's off to him, because I could never have imagined what we are at now. But the telling thing about our crowd at Barclays Center was that they cheered louder for Travis Scott. And my son lost it when he saw Travis Scott. Jay-Z, son of the borough, very responsible with the fact that Barclays Center even got built. James Dolan was trying to stop it, and part of the reason why they bought in Jay-Z was to put a human face on the project, and and he didn't get cheered as loud as Travis Scott. So that should tell you everything you need to know about how young our crowd is, Sam.
Yeah, no, totally.
Let's get a little bit into the basketball. No, before we get into basketball, one last thing in terms of just last night that just goes to show like how important emotion is to the whole thing. Like there was no emotion at the end of the Boston series. We knew we were gonna beat them. It was almost just like rudimentary. It's like, all right, let's just get this over with. And the Bucks game was completely different because we didn't know. And then because of the way it started. When James Harden went out, there was like confusion.
Yep.
I didn't even see him walk off.
Yep.
When I just started scanning Twitter, when I'm like, yo, wait a second, where's the beard? And I'm starting to look through Twitter, and I see he's injured. And I think when it hit me, it hit the rest of the the building, and everyone was like, oh shoot, what are we gonna do?
Totally.
So, where were you when you got the news?
So, like, I mean, the early timeout, I was like, this is really weird. Nash never does this. Like, it couldn't have been that something happened that was, like, so terrible, like, playing-wise, because it was 43 seconds in. And then, I started hearing people whispering, and they're like, and they said something about Harden. And then I went on Twitter and finally, like, I forgot who it was. I think it was a fan that said, like, Harden just went into the locker room. And I was like, okay, here we go. Like it's starting right now. And honestly, I think in a lot of ways, like to get into the actual basketball aspect of it, I think the first quarter in a lot of ways it surprised me, honestly, in the way that they responded. Because, like, look, I as you know, I like to play the body language doctor, and when Harden went into the locker room, like the Nets bench looked like pretty dejected. Like I think they all kind of knew what happened.
No, I sat on that end, and the weird thing was like all of a sudden everyone was following, all the eyes was following James Harden going back into the locker room, and the way that I started, I didn't even see him. You understand? I was reading the players' faces, like, what's going on? The timeout, and everybody's head was watching, looking, not even watching him go because he was gone. They were just looking down the hallway of the leading to the locker room, and it was just like, I guess he's not coming back. And it hit them, it hit us. It was very weird. The whole building felt that shit. It was very, very weird.
Yeah, I mean, and so once like I was looking at them and I was like, oh boy, like that, like this is a total game that can get away from them quickly, like especially if they kind of if they kind of mentally check out a little bit or whatever it is. And I thought the fact that it like stayed as close as it did, and they really like salvaged the first quarter and even really the first half, like.
Right.
It was just I think it's definitely a testament to the team. And I also think, I mean, I know, look, we've said this the entire year, but it's clear that like Kyrie just has a freaking mission, not only about winning for this team, winning for this fan base. I think I think beyond his connections to the team as like from a fan perspective and growing up in the Jason Kidd era, I think he loves actually that he's rooting for a team that's up and coming and newer and has a different vibe to it than like what he experiences with the Knicks. And like I just thought he set the tone in every way, shape, and form last night.
They're building something new, right?
Yep.
And when you're building something, and when you're one of the architects of any big project, there's a pride to it. He's not one of the carpenters. He's not one of the guys who's installing the plumbing or a bricklayer. He's one of the architects of this thing. And I know people might laugh at that and might belittle Kyrie, but I think that's the thing that that ties this together. That's the glue in this, because everything could be frivolous to someone who has $450 million in his bank account in 3 years.
Right.
Everything is frivolous to someone who's done he has a championship. He's not going to walk out of the NBA without a championship. They're playing for bigger things. They're playing for immortality. And I remember when that All-Star game video, the Zapruder film of the NBA, when the two of them were talking to each other and laughing, and like what the two of us would do if we linked up and we just built something completely new. My statue would be on Atlantic. Your statue would be on Flatbush. That's the kind of conversations you could have, and you can see it on the court, man. Like I don't know. Tell me about KD. Like let's talk about him and what he did last night. Amazing game, but it wasn't even a great game though, to be honest, right?
No, I mean, look, like I thought, look, they eventually switched Giannis onto him a little bit in the fourth quarter, but like I thought Tucker played like really solid D and kept with him and made him uncomfortable at times. But like honestly, like it didn't really matter. Like he still got his, but as you said, like KD didn't have like the Kawhi 45-point game
Right.
In game six. He didn't have like the Damian Lillard 55-point game. And this was a type of game where you would have thought you would have needed that, like we
The
need
word for the games that both him and Kyrie had, they just had very tidy games.
yep.
And 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 the reason why they're so impactful is because of how much energy teams have to exert to stop either one of them. And when they exert that energy, it allows other people to step up. Like Blake Griffin was phenomenal last night, and not for Blake Griffin things, for this new 2.0 version of Blake Griffin. Was it for you? Was it that he was just that good, or was it that they just were couldn't guard him with all of the energy they had to take or give up to guard Kyrie and KD?
Yeah, I mean, like it's kind of hard. I like the Blake thing. I just don't know. I honestly have a hard time evaluating it because like he has some plays and like look, you came up with one of my favorite concepts ever, which is like how many jumps does a player have left, and and so like he has moments on defense like where like Giannis will beat him backdoor or whatever, and I'm like okay, like this could be like the corpse could be getting ready to be built for him,
Yeah.
and then and then he has other moments where he like looks pretty spry and he's hitting threes and stuff like that. And maybe it's because like as you said, like his job at this point is not that hard. Like I saw, someone said this on Twitter, and it is true. Like
Mm.
he, like he dogged it like this last like year and change, and like in part it was because like like his like he was hurt also. He
I
wasn't.
don't I don't agree with that. I want to cut you off on that because here's the thing. What a guy like who's in the stage of Blake Griffin's career, like Blake Griffin is not um he doesn't create the climate in the building.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like his effect on the game is the way that it is because Joe Harris is on one wing and Kyrie and KD is on the court. So when he's like, I don't think he was sandbagging it in at his last stop because they were like, Blake, put us on your back and take us somewhere, and he's not that Blake anymore. Like
Oh no,
that,
no, yeah,
you
and and
know.
and and to be fair to and to piggyback on what you were just saying, like people forget, but like in 2019 he was awesome, and he was like baby, he was an all-star, like playing at not like peak athleticism performance, but like playing really smart and really effective, and they were
Right,
really fucking good
but
because of
it's
literally because of him.
fractions of a second.
Yep.
Like Blake used to be able to spin off of you and get off the ground so fast that you could not, defend a little push shot or him dunking on you. Or he just was so athletically powerful that all of the skill stuff